I'm sure everyone's familiar with breathing and breath work and using the breath to calm the body, to clear the mind, to subdue inner chatter. And it doesn't just come up for meditation, it can be any time of day. I mean, how often have you been completely frustrated or exasperated and took a big deep breath and just let it whoosh out? Or have you ever practiced alternate nostril breathing or breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth intentionally? And it can be a useful tool to accomplish any of those things, but I think there's a deeper meaning that we don't actively consider or pick up on when we are intentionally breathing. If we think of breathing as something that automatically happens in the body, like the heart automatically beats, you don't have to do something or focus attention on something in order for your heart to beat. It beats. Your blood circulates, your cells replicate. They're doing all of these things without you consciously, intentionally telling them to do so or adjusting them in any way, shape, or form. Now, here's where the breath is different than that. The breath is almost always happening automatically, but if we choose to, not only can we control it and pay attention to it, but we can adjust it and change it. And I think the deeper meaning here is to start to realize that all of the things that you feel happen in your body automatically, and in that way are sort of out of your realm of responsibility. Because you're not choosing to make them happen, they are just happening. And so in that way, you're basically not responsible for them happening. But that isn't true. There are some things that happen in the body, like the beating of your heart, the circulating of your blood, that you don't really notice, usually. You can feel your heart beating, you can feel your blood pressure rise, but usually you don't feel them, at least in the same way that you can feel your breath. But there's another layer here. If you were to have to describe how you open and close your hand, not from a physiological standpoint, but from trying to explain to somebody how you do it. What action do you take intentionally to move your hand, to open and close it? You can't describe it. You couldn't teach it to somebody because it's a thing that you activate and do, but you don't know how you do it. But that's very visible and tangible and tactile, whereas your cells dividing is something that also you can't explain how you do it. Outside of the realm of scientifically, here's what happens. I'm saying if somebody were to say to you, I'm having trouble dividing my cells, can you tell me how? You couldn't. Same conundrum as you found with tell me how I can open and close my hand. But one is very visible and tangible, and the other is invisible and seemingly has no tactile impact on you at any given moment, the cell dividing. But these things are happening by your doing. You just don't know how you do them. Now back to the breathing and the breath work. Similarly to opening and closing your hand, you can't describe or teach or inform somebody how to control their breath. It's just something that does happen something that you do. And you know you can do it, but you don't really know how you do it. And so the deeper meaning to me is that this is an indication that all of those things that are happening in your body are actually things that you are doing. You just don't know how you do them. And in the common theme on this channel of part of the reason that we're unable to describe or know certain things is because we think and speak and communicate in language, and words are innately clumsy in the sense of they can't get to the true matter of a thing. They can only provide you a representation of a thing. And so in that way, there is no getting to the root cause in terms of trying to figure out, aka think, about how it is that you are actually in control of dividing your cells and flowing your blood and beating your heart. But breath work and breathing is a glimpse into that true nature. That you are doing all of these things, and here's an example of one of them that you can do. Blinking is another one. Usually happens naturally, automatically. You don't really take much note of it. But you can intentionally or blink or not blink. But the value of focusing on breath is that you have to make it happen in some way, shape, or form because it's necessary to sustain life. Whereas blinking doesn't come with that weight. And so when you're controlling your breath and you have that moment that you decide that I'm going to control my breath, and there's that transition from automatic to intentional, consider the implications of that for how do you decide and cause your hand to move? How do you cause your heart to beat and your cells to divide? You aren't separate from these things. You are not a little pilot positioned inside your aircraft, which is your body. They are one and the same. And focusing on breathing is a way to brush up against that reality.